Everyone goes through the 3 stages of school: GCSEs, potentially A levels, or if you go to college, and then you move on to a full-time job or you go to university. But staying fit and in shape amongst all of that is one of the most challenging things I've ever faced, but I've come out so much better on the other side when I started prioritising the right thing. So I started trying to go to the gym when I started my GCSEs, but I was prioritising all of the wrong concepts because they were generally the concepts that went around school that people were like, oh yeah, just do this, just do that. You know, you kind of want to conform to what everyone says. You don't want to be the odd one out. Then as I get to A levels, I thought, let's start diversifying how I'm training, and that's where I started to see some real progress within my physique. Fast forward 3 years, I'm now a published sports science researcher and a final year sport and exercise science student at Oxford Brookes University, looking to do my masters in a year's time. And amongst all that, I've built a pretty decent physique considering how busy my lifestyle is. So I'm going to show you how I did that and what are the concepts I focused on the most that dramatically changed my gains. So in this video, we're going to cover the most important principles for effective training as a busy student, how to make the most of short workouts, and tips for recovery and staying consistent. Because by the end, you'll have everything you need to balance fitness and academics seamlessly. So let's get started with my top 5 most important training principles as a busy student. So the first principle I started to utilize really effectively was prioritizing recovery over training. Because this might sound counterintuitive, but your muscles get broken down in the gym, they don't get built in the gym. They get built when you're resting. So you can recover really effectively even whilst you're just sat there studying, but you do actually have to prioritize your recovery in order for your muscles to grow again. So skipping rest days or neglecting sleep will mean your muscles cannot recover effectively overnight or during the times you're not training. So as a result of that, your next sessions, you won't be able to train nearly as hard as you want to, and if this consistently happens, your muscles can undergo a process called EIMD, which is exercise-induced muscle damage. This is where they accumulate excessive damage and become extremely difficult to recover in short periods of time. So this is how to actively prioritize your recovery. You want to allow at least 48 hours between training a muscle twice. So if you train chest on Monday, you should not be training chest again until Wednesday, and that goes for every muscle. Prioritize sleep for 7 to 9 hours a night. So if you have to wake up at 7 in the morning, which a lot of students do, I certainly do, you definitely want to be asleep by midnight. Even better would be 10 o'clock. And a little bonus tip, if you want some extra muscle gains overnight, take at least 20 grams of protein before you go to sleep, as close to sleeping as you can. I usually have a clear whey protein shake of around 23 grams of protein. That keeps me within muscle protein synthesis throughout the night. And the final tip is to include light stretching or mobility work during rest days. I personally really struggled to take rest days because I loved going to the gym so much and I just wanted to hammer my muscles. But now I understand the benefits of having proper rest days, but you can utilize them days by doing mobility and stretch work to enhance your recovery even further. And for long-term recovery, try and take a deload every 6 to 8 weeks, which means dramatically decreasing the weight you're using or just not going to the gym at all for about a week's time to get your body to fully recover, and then you can restart your sessions. Because recovery in the long run ensures you can keep training hard without any significant setbacks. So moving on to the next part is training frequency. And I would definitely recommend to be training each muscle around twice a week. Anything more than that isn't super necessary, but anything less is definitely a bad thing. Because the difference in gains between people who train a muscle once a week and people who train a muscle twice a week is significant. But then the difference in gains between people who train a muscle twice a week and people who train a muscle 3 times a week is negligible. So I think 2 times a week is the good sweet spot. Because when you're short on time, accurate training frequency is the key to optimizing your hypertrophy. So significant amounts of research, so there are massive differences in hypertrophy between people who train twice a week and people who train once. So if you're not sure on what split you should use, I would recommend a push-pull leg split, because you can go 6 times a week for a 45-minute session and that means you get to train each muscle twice a week, which is what we think is the best recommendation. And to keep your workouts in that 45-minute range, aim for around 3 exercises per muscle group and around 2 to 3 sets per exercise. So using accurate and tailored training frequency ensures you stay in muscle protein synthesis consistently, even with shorter training sessions. So what should your reps look like? I always hear your reps should look the same across the whole set. I think that's a load of bollocks. If you're actually training to failure consistently, or you're training to a point where your rep tempo reduces in time, which is what we're aiming for optimal hypertrophy, your reps won't look the same. With regard to form, yes, they probably should look the same for the first 80% of your reps. But then as you get to the last few super difficult reps, your form's probably going to change a bit because you're trying significantly harder than the first 80% of your reps. But in terms of how your reps should actually look, using full range of motion with an emphasis on the stretch, which is the lengthened portion of the movement, is absolutely non-negotiable. Using exercises like an RDL for your hamstrings or an incline dumbbell curl for your biceps emphasizes the stretch and increased tension during the lengthened phase of the movement, which increases hypertrophy. So as a practical tip to increase the emphasis on the stretch, you want to have the lowering phase to be around 3 to 4 seconds. You'll notice this massively increases the stretch and, as a consequence, probably the pump too, and everyone loves a good pump. And using this controlled scientific approach also enhances your mind to muscle connection, which brings us to the next point, which is focusing on a mind to muscle connection. So building muscle isn't just about moving the weight, it's by actively making every rep count by thinking about the muscle you're targeting. And by focusing on this mind to muscle connection, you can dramatically increase your hypertrophic gain. So a great example is that during a lat pull down, instead of focusing on holding the bar and pulling your arms down, I want you to focus about dragging your elbows to your pockets and just thinking about your hands as a little hook to hold the weight. That shifts the focus from your arms to your lats, increasing the mind to muscle connection. Because there are a significant amount of studies to show that using an internal focus, like mind to muscle connection, can significantly increase the amount of hypertrophy you experience. So that's another reason why you should probably do a warm-up set for the first exercise of the muscle you're targeting to enhance the feeling of the contraction, which will enhance your mind to muscle connection. So once you've nailed the basics on form and engagement, it's time to start thinking about the intensity you should be training at. So using progressive overload is a great way to keep your training intensity high. So let's explain how it works. So one of the most important principles for sustained muscle growth over significant periods of time is implementing progressive overload, which is gradually and consistently increasing the intensity put into your muscles during your training sessions. This can be done by increasing the volume, i.e. the reps or the sets, or by increasing the weight, which is the intensity. So if you did 30 kilos on the dumbbell bench press this week, maybe next week you can look to do 32 kilos on the dumbbell bench press. Or if you're not quite comfortable increasing the weight, maybe try and add another rep for the next set you do. There are numerous ways to increase the intensity using progressive overload, but it doesn't really matter how you do it, just make sure you do, because your muscles will not adapt unless they're forced to. Your muscles just want to survive. So if they're forced to adapt, then they will. But if they're not forced to adapt, i.e. you don't increase the intensity, they just won't get any bigger. So this is probably a good time to start using a workout log so you can track the weights you've been using so you can accurately and effectively implement progressive overload. So implementing progressive overload into your workouts weekly allows you to increase the intensity without encouraging any unnecessary damage. So I think the important takeaway is that as a busy student, you might want to prioritize your studies, which I definitely think you should do. Studying is a really important thing to do, but you can also get significant gains spending only 45 minutes in the gym 6 times a week. But you have to have a balance, otherwise you're just going to go mentally insane. That's exactly what happened to me. I went nuts because I spent too much time not in the gym, and then I did swing the wrong way and then started spending too much time in the gym, and then it's a vicious cycle. But finding the balance is the optimal idea and the optimal end outcome. So let's summarize what we've covered and what you should now be confident with applying in your training. So you should train each muscle group at least twice weekly for consistent progress. You should use a full range of motion with an emphasis on the stretch portion of the movement. You want to build a strong mind to muscle connection during every rep. You gradually apply progressive overload to keep growing, and prioritize recovery through proper rest and sleep. These principles will help you stay on track even with a packed schedule. So what's your biggest challenge as a student trying to stay fit? Let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can help. But if you have had a significant time off of the gym and you're worried about restarting because you're going to have to put in all the effort, don't worry, no you won't, your gains have gone nowhere. Check out my most recent video, it explains the use of muscle memory to enhance your muscle recovery after a significant break from the gym. So don't forget to like if you enjoyed this video in particular, and subscribe if you want more science-backed fitness advice. That's it from me, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.